Hi, this is Sherry Dodson with Mo, Miley, and Aggie, and you're listening to Bad Dog Agility, where naughty dogs train.
I'm Esteban.
And I'm Sarah, and this is episode 12.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Advo Agility, specializing in health and wellness, weight management, vibrant energy, and sports performance for the human half of your agility team.
Advo Agility is run by Janae Cunningham, a fellow competitor who understands the demands of agility competition. Visit Janae at advoagility.com. That's ADVO agility.com. There will also be a link to her site on our podcast page.
Today we'd like to welcome Laura and Greg Derrett to the podcast, noted competitors and instructors. Laura has represented the UK at IFCS Worlds as well as the European Open, and Greg has won everything there is to win in Great Britain and is once again a member of the UK team competing at FCI Worlds in the Czech Republic later this year. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, before we talk about the team selection process for the UK, I wanted to get a couple things straight. It's always been very confusing to people here in the States. How do we refer to competitors in England? Are you guys the English team? Are you the British team? Are you UK, GB? How does all of that work for these kinds of European and international competitions?
With the FCI event, we're the Great British team. So it's England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland combined together. So it's a British Kennel Club team.
Okay. And what about like the European Open?
Yeah, same. Anything which the Kennel Club represents is Great Britain. And so Southern Ireland has its own teams, but England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, we're combined as one. There is a movement by the Scottish and Welsh. They have their own kennel clubs, although I'm pretty sure they're sanctioned by the British Kennel Club, but they're looking to maybe have their own teams. So the future might be different. But at the moment, the British Kennel Club isn't a member of FCI, so they're invited, the same as the American Kennel Club, to compete.
Gotcha. So when we talk about the British team, it would be best to say or refer to y'all as the British team as opposed to, say, the English team.
Correct. It's definitely the British team. The Scots and the Welsh would be very unhappy with you if you say England.
Good to know. Don't want to ruffle any feathers. All right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about the team selection process that you all have over there?
Well, it's actually all changing at the moment. They're just applying for new managers, so 2013 might be a completely different process. But for the last 12 years, we've had one selection day where we've had between 3 and 4 runs, and it's basically the first past the post gets on the team. This year, it was the top 2 were automatically picked, and then he took the 3rd, 4th and 5th place in the large and the 3rd and 4th in the small and medium. So there's been very little selection really. It's always been based on who gets in the top 4, 5 dogs on the selection day. And it's run as points for places. So if you come first, you get 50 points and then all the way down. And it's top 50% in the class get points. I think I'm not 100% sure on that actually, whether it's top 50%, but first place gets most points. And then if you're faulted, you can have 5 faults and you're okay, but if you have more than 5 faults, then you don't get points regardless of your place. And that's the process.
So it actually is quite similar to the U.S. process, where you have 2 spots that are guaranteed by time, and the rest of the spots, there is some discretion by the coach.
The rules are written that way, yeah, that top 2 overall get invited onto the squad, and then all other places are manager's discretion.
Okay.
Pretty much in the last 12 years, they've only ever made one decision out of that, and that was actually bringing Detox onto the team last year. I came 7th, I think, and they brought me on as an individual last year. That was the only occasions I can think of in 12 years where they've actually gone against the final results of the selection day.
How many runs do you have in the selection day?
This year was 4. Over the last previous years, it's been between 3 and 4, depending on the entry size. This year it was 1 jumping round and then 3 agility rounds.
Is it a single day's event or a 2-day event?
No, this year was single day. A couple of years ago it was a 2-day event, but It's just literally one day. So it's not the most popular selection process because of, every year we have some very, very good dogs that are winning everything, have a bad day and don't make the team.
Right.
So it's, I think, probably long term, I think that's going to change with the new manager they're looking to bring in for 2013. But we'll see.
What kind of turnout did you guys have for the selection?
Top of my head, this year we had 40 large and about 10 smalls and 10 medium.
Wow.
It's nowhere near as big as you would think it would be, considering the size of our shows. It's very few people try out. You have to be in grade 7 to try it, so that does limit a lot. But your average grade 7 class in England for large would probably have about 140 dogs in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and across the country there's, I would guess, 500 large grade 7 dogs that are actively competing. So it is quite a small percentage. Obviously, travel out of the UK, it's easier now than it was, but it's quite a difficult process with pet passports and travelling back in. So rabies shots that we don't have to have normally. So, there's a little bit of expense to actually travel. Sort of £100, I guess, nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But that still puts a lot of people off the travel process.
Right. Well, you mentioned the grade 7 and the different levels of agility in Great Britain. Tell us a little bit about the differences between agility in the UK and in Great Britain and in the US. Laura, you probably have a really good perspective on that, having competed for quite a while in both locations. But my understanding is that it's drastically different.
It is. Yes, I had, previously competed over here for AKC and USDAA and then went over to Great Britain, and it was a massive difference. Here, we get to move up based on clean rounds. And over there, you have to win your class in order to move up the levels. And it's not just, a class of 20 dogs. You're competing against a class of 150, 200, 300, sometimes 400 dogs that you actually have to win in order to move up. So it's definitely more competitive over in England than it is here.
And right now, Laura is in California, so that's why she's referring to the U.S. as here.
Yes.
And Greg is currently in the UK. So I've heard that before, how you have to win to move up in levels. So is there an equivalent of like novice? Do you have people with slower dogs that kind of do it just for fun, that just stay in like grade 1 or?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you have here is a huge, our biggest numbers are obviously in the lower grades. Same with any sport, you've got your pyramid structure. But yeah, I mean, there's people that have stayed in the lower grades forever. I mean, they changed the rules about 3 or 4 years ago. So you can choose to move up on points now in the kennel club system, but you're talking, I think it's 75 points to move up, and a win is 10 points in jumping and I think 15 in agility, and I think clear round is 1 or 2 points. So you're talking a huge amount of clear rounds to move up. So that probably has allowed some people to move up that had been stuck in what we used to call starters or grade 1 for 20 years. I've known of clients that were, the breed of dog they had in large, they were never going to win a class, and they literally had been in starters forever. And there seems to be more of an acceptance of that here, is that, a sport is a pyramid-based sport, and, the best move to the top and the majority stay in the lower levels. And people with different breeds certainly, seem to have accepted that, and they'll set different goals, going clear, being within 5 seconds of the border collie, or, number of clear rounds they go for. It's not so much about moving up for them, it's about what they can achieve in that class. But that's a definite different attitude between the UK, well, probably Europe and America, I'd have said. You can move up in Europe a lot easier than you can in Great Britain. But again, that you have to be more competitive to actually move up out there. It's not just about the clear round.
Right.
I think the other major difference between the UK and the US is just the number. Our average shows will be 6-7 ring events, with our big shows sort of 15, 16 rings. I think the biggest ever show had 23 competition rings over here. So, it's just on the size and scale of people. Obviously in England, everyone can get everywhere in a day's drive.
Right.
which makes it different. And I assume for the size of our country, it's probably about the same size of people, or same number of people in England competing as there are in the US, but we can all get to the one show. Although nowadays, with Kennel Club, with UK Agility, and also there's a lot of what they call independent shows that have no organisation behind them. They're just I guess like you guys have show and go.
Right.
They're kind of more like that. I guess they've not really got an organisation behind them. There's no progression with them. It's just an event. So probably each weekend you can find 7-8 different shows throughout the UK. And some of the more popular weekends, the bank holiday weekend, public holiday weekends, you can find 14, 15 shows on. And that's actually helped a lot because some of the shows were just getting so big. Like I said, a 23-ring show is just not fun for anybody. Right. It's so vast. And if you've got 2 dogs in different levels, you're just spending your whole day running around trying to get to that ring, and it's not an enjoyable event. So with all the increasing number of shows that's happening, it's bringing the shows back to a more manageable size. But 12 to 14 rings is still quite common, certainly through the summer. And one of the big problems that we've had with Kennel Club shows is that the winter shows have disappeared because the indoor venues aren't big enough. Kennel Club, open show means it's open for everybody. They don't have a limit or cap. So we've lost a lot of the winter shows used to do just because now they're just the entry would be too big to actually run an event in an indoor facility. So that's been one of the detriments of our sport growing the way it has.
Well, you've talked a little bit about the different organizations now that you have over there. So tell us a little bit about UKA and UKI.
Well, we started UKA in England in 2004, and we brought in a 4th jump height. That was one of our main things. So that we do it in inches. We've got a 12-inch, a 16-inch, and a 20-inch cutoff. That was one of the big differences. We also brought in the point system and just 4 levels. And we brought in training rounds. Those are the 3 major things that we really did. And we've grown steadily over the last 8 years. Kennel Club's still by far the bigger organisation. And I think, if we're honest, probably always will be. They've got things like Crufts and the Olympia finals, which are events that, everyone wants to compete at. They're huge international events. So, they've got that pull. There's one other organisation over here, the BAA, British Agility Association, and they tend to be in the Midlands area and have grown to a certain extent in that area. And their rules, again, fairly similar to Kennel Club rules. They've got 3 heights, and they've got their own progression system. Again, that's based more on clear rounds, I believe. And then the independent shows, there's just a lot of independent shows, people just putting on day events, and they're proving fairly popular for the sort of the training reasons that you have your show and goes. And UKI we started in
2010.
And Laura can explain more on that for you.
Yeah, we started UKI in 2010, and that's why I've been over here quite a bit, back and forth from the UK, just getting this up and running. And really, we started it because of just the difference in the competitor attitude from Great Britain to here, talking to people wanting new challenges that we just weren't seeing over here in the States. And after running a lot of the courses in England and in Europe, there was a noticeable difference. So especially when we come over here at the States and we're doing training seminars and putting a lot of the challenges into our training seminars that we typically see over in England and in Britain, people were asking for those. We don't get to see those here. So bringing UKI over, we allow those challenges in our courses, and people have really, really turned on to those. I think the more that they are becoming exposed to them, the more people are wanting them. So it's starting to take off.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition here in the States. We really don't have very many opportunities to practice in competition those kind of international level challenges. And then when you try to do something like try out for world team or you make the world team, you just don't have as much exposure to that as somebody who runs it every single weekend.
Right. In fact, I had seen a couple of posts recently from the U.S. team coming back from the EO, and part of their complaints were that they just are not exposed to those type of courses in a competitive environment. So we're hoping that with that exposure, they'll want to come to UKI and see that they can run those type of courses in the competition environment. And then the other part of that, just like UKA in England, is that we do allow training rounds. So you can, come to one of the trials and decide, I want to run this agility class and bring a toy into the ring and actually train it. Or I want to run the next course as competition. So it can really, really help a competitor's skills.
And for those who don't know, you also have the ability to start at a higher level. If you have like a USDA Masters dog or an AKC Excellent dog, you can actually jump into UKI at a higher level, right?
Correct. Yes. And that was really important to us because we want to make sure that people are competing against the same level dog in the shows. It wouldn't be fair for, let's say, a Masters level dog to then be competing on a beginner course with other, newer handlers and new dogs. So we just wanted to make sure everybody's at the same level.
Yeah, we've also done that in the UK, so people can transfer across from Kennel Club into UK level. And also recently we've introduced it where we'd had some dogs that had started at UKA and had used UK for the training rounds to establish a ring experience and that kind of stuff. And they've gone off to Kennel Club and been extremely successful and in fact become agility champions. And to become an agility champion at Kennel Club means that you've not only won yourself up to grade 7, which involves I think you need about 9 wins to get to grade 7. But once you're in grade 7, then all the grade 7 dogs run what they call championship certificate classes. Then that class will be an agility and jumping round in the morning, where the top 20 then go into a final that evening, and the winner of that gets a championship certificate. And once you've won 3 of those, you become an agility champion. So
that would be the equivalent of the mock.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, I think a mock is based on clear rounds, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. Where this is a lot of winning.
Right.
There's probably only 3 or 4 dogs a year achieve agility champion status. It's a pretty tough thing to get. There's only 25, 30 of them a year throughout the UK. So, for example, Detox has only got 2 CCs so far, so she still needs another one to become an agility champion.
Oh, wow.
GT won, I think, 5 in her life. So that was, 6 years of competing at the highest level. And she won 5 or 6, I can't remember. So they're pretty tough to get. So we had a few of these dogs that would become agility champions that were still eligible for our beginners, because that's what they'd run in originally, and then they'd gone off, won this, and they wanted to come back to UKA.
Right.
We've now brought in a rule that they can move straight in. They can move straight up the levels to the champ level, so that again we haven't got agility champions competing against beginner dogs, which would be a little bit daunting for those beginners, but also it's a bit really pointless for the agility champion dog to be running those kind of courses.
Right, especially when you have limited time, limited shows, you kind of want to jump right in.
Yeah, correct. So, I think that's the point of an organisation, is to be realistic. You've got your rules and regulations, but you still need to be realistic about where we are in the sport and, the world that we live in with other organisations. You've got to be realistic of people may spend a year on one organisation moving up, and then they're going to come back to another organisation to try and move up, and, well, they might have a certain goal of qualify from that world team, and then they want to come back and qualify for the other world team. So people are going to come and go from organisations all the time, and you need to make sure that we've still got dogs competing at the right level while still being fair to your weekly competitor who is working their way through. So it's that finding that balance is one of the keys that we're always looking to try and do.
I think they're having the same issue over here, and I know that there are elements within both AKC and USDAA that certainly would like to see a more international approach to coursework. But as you pointed out, if you go to a trial here in the U.S., you go to a typical AKC show, most of the dogs there are going to be in the excellent, or master's equivalent class, and we're going to have a lot fewer dogs running in novice and open. So, we're very top heavy. Our pyramid is inverted. And when it's that top portion that's paying all the entry fees and putting money into your organization, I think, people at the top, the decision makers, are going to be reluctant to shake up anything that might lead to a loss of entries. And I feel like the last couple of years, maybe the growth of agility has slowed a little bit here in the United States. that, it's something that they're careful about and that they think about, and they understand that maybe not everyone is interested in even knowing what a threadle or a serpentine is, or tackling those kinds of courses. But you do have that a group of vocal competitors who are also trialing often, and they're out there teaching and learning and all that, and they want to see those kinds of challenges. So I think it's hard for the organizations here to balance as well. There was a time when I thought the AKC was kind of headed in that direction, with the invitational that they were hosting out in Long Beach, and even at the national championship, we had the international class as a standard and a jumpers run, but that's gone away. And I thought that would eventually be replaced by having those international-like elements put right into the actual competition. But that really didn't happen this last year. And a lot of people have pointed out that as far as the courses go for this last nationals, maybe a little bit on the easier side compared to previous years.
And I agree with that. I mean, I think, we're still dealing with what most people have been brought up with as far as competition in the United States. Their whole focus is quite a bit different. They really want to have those titles. But I also think that, which is where I think we're beginning to grow, is that we do have a group of people throughout the country that are looking for those challenges. So hopefully as agility continues to grow, even if it's a little bit slow right now, we will continue to grow as an organization as well.
Yeah, I think all organizations face the problem, and UK and UK are no different, that you're trying to balance the business aspect of running a sport as well as trying to look after the sport. And it's very easy to make rule changes to try and please everybody, which is good for business. But you also need to be looking at the long-term development of our sport and the direction that you're heading and how you're going to change it. Over here now, and same as America, everyone's moving to rubber contacts and trying to bring those rules in. That obviously has a financial implications for show managers to have to provide change from the old wooden contacts to rubber contacts. But for the good of the sport, that role needs to take place. This is one example of balancing the business and sport, or the good of the sport. And the other obvious thing you've got your two types of people in agility in all countries. You've got your person that just wants to go out and run the dog, and if they go clear,
they're happy.
Recognition. And also you've then got the other handler that wants to go out and become world champion, and to try and find the balance where you've got an organisation where you cater towards both people. And hopefully with UKA and UKI, by allowing the training rounds, by having different programs with the performance and the steeplechase, as we call it in England, and in UK it's the international and the
speed stakes.
With the two different programs, that allows the different focus on where they're going. But also once they get into that champ level, by having the masters classes, the masters is purely designed for those people that want to go international or try international style courses or the harder level courses, so that even if they're in champ, they don't want to do that, they still get their champ classes running at a certain level, obviously a higher level than beginners and novice. But if they want to do masters, then that's that extra class on there for them which they can enter. So hopefully with bringing those kind of things in, we can cater a bit more for both kind of competitor.
Right. And I think it's also what provides the opportunity to have multiple different organizations. They kind of all bring a slightly different aspect to the table.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, competition is good for everybody, isn't it?
Right.
It keeps everyone on their toes. And I mean, certainly in Great Britain, UK Agility were kind of the first people that ever challenged the Kennel Club. And they made some rule changes pretty immediately as a reaction to us. Some were good and some were bad. But since then, they've certainly made some rule changes which have been for the good of the sport that I don't think they would have made if they hadn't had a competitor.
Right.
And for us as well, we're constantly aware of what the Kennel Club is doing here, what they're looking to do, and whether we should be, following their lead or doing something different, for the good of the sport. So, it's good to have the different organisations to be throwing the ideas in and trying to develop where it should be going.
I like the idea of the sport as continuing to evolve. And, I look forward to the day when here in the States, we can call agility and not have to call it international agility and think of it as something that's more difficult or harder to do or a higher level of competition than what we have here, here in America.
Yeah, I think that's probably a worldwide thing. I mean, one of the complaints that the British team have is that we often don't face the same challenges that Europe face on a week in, week out basis. I've just competed in Denmark a few weeks ago, and their grade 1 class or level 1 class had a 180-degree weave entry. So the dog took a jump that was about 7 poles down the weave and had to run right up the other end and in at a 180-degree turn. And that was in their level 1. That was their beginner dogs, which were, and I watched the class and they were all hitting it. All these beginner dogs. And if you set that up in a starters class here or beginners class here in the UK, there would be an outroar. So it's all about perceptions and getting people to the lower levels to want to be challenged a little bit more maybe. Whereas certainly Europe, the European countries, Central European countries, I would say are ahead of the UK, and the UK is probably ahead of the US on that kind of attitude of wanting the more challenges.
Well, and those challenges are going to be what push training methods, handling methods, and all of that to kind of their limits that force evolution.
Absolutely. I mean, to improve the standard of dog training, we need the challenges to keep moving forward, so that we learn how to train the dogs better, which hopefully will push positive reinforcement more into the forefront of dog training. Although it's pretty good now in agility, I would say. But yeah, hopefully that as we increase the challenges, we can improve the dog training and the methods develop, and the top handlers are bringing new stuff to the table to try and get around the more challenging courses.
So Greg, you were the creator of one of the established systems of handling called the Greg Derrett system of handling, at least around here. How do you continue to evolve or improve your handling?
The system, it's a very American idea to have a system of handling, although seminars I've helped to encourage that. But more really, I think everyone has their own system of handling. They like to say, I do Greg Derrett system, I do Mecklenburg system, I do Jenny Dam system, I do Finnish system. But really, it should be everyone's own personal handling system. They may base their ideas on someone else, but really all I'm ever trying to do with my dogs is make my cues clearer. Every time I see a question in training or when I'm competing, if I see a head check or an extra stride or the wide turn, how can I communicate or cue the dog better to prevent that mistake, that error, or that question? So I think it's just constantly self-evaluating. What's my dog reading? Why is it reading that? Do I want it to read that? What inconsistency have I done there? Am I using that same cue elsewhere for the behaviour I didn't like? And I guess that self-criticism, I suppose, is the best way to keep looking at it, and then trying to work out, just as our understanding of dogs' behaviours increasing and our knowledge on dog training is increasing, it's just using the two together to try and improve. There's constant new methods coming out. A lot of the European handling now is I don't want to use aggressive in a bad way, but I mean aggressive as in that they're very, very fast. Lots of managing the turns, and that's the very big trend in Europe at the moment, is all these different kind of handling manoeuvres to try and tighten turns up, and it's looking to try and compete with those whilst staying to the cues I believe in.
One of the things that I've always liked about your system of handling is that it is very grounded in theory and in explanations. So because you are bringing that system to people, it's not good enough for you to reevaluate your own handling and make adjustments. You have to be able to analyze those adjustments and figure out why they needed to be made and how to explain them and what is different about your cues, so that you can kind of work that into the overall picture and the overall consistency of your cues.
Yeah, that's one of the, I think anyone who's a seminar presenter, that you're every time you run, people are watching you to not necessarily criticize you, but to see whether you're doing exactly as you tell them from the seminar. And as we evolve, the good thing with presenting seminars is that you are asked why. It's more of an American thing to question. When I first came to America from doing seminars in Great Britain, people would just take your, at face value. If you said do a front cross there, they'd say okay, and they'd do it. The American sort of mentality is they want to understand as well, and that's been brilliant for me to actually try and improve and really understand my dog and what we're cueing and why it works and how it works, so that you can explain it fully. And I think that helps us to evolve as well, because as we start thinking of why those things are working, the new theories such as positional cues came from, or I say front cross there, but why? And then you start looking at consistent position, and suddenly we've now talked about positional cues. That's just an example. But it is, as you think, well, maybe I'll try a different cue. You know that the minute you put it in the competition ring and someone sees you do it, it's a very public world now with Facebook and YouTube, and it's people filming you run the dogs you don't even realise, and then you see a YouTube clip of you running, and then questions about why did you do that. It's you always have to be ready for it with an answer. Although hopefully when I get to the competition ring, it's always tried and tested and proven before we actually implement it in competition.
Awesome. The big question that I always have when I watch your runs, and they don't go quite right, I want to know, why didn't he win that run? He should win every single run. Yeah,
that's I know I've received a fair bit of criticism that, well, if you're so good, how come you haven't won World Cup? But that's agility. You're working with a dog, and between the two of us, we can all make mistakes sometimes, and the best dog trainers and best handlers aren't necessarily the best competitors. You've got so many different aspects to agility. You've got your dog training, you've got your handling, you've got the ability to deal with pressure when it really counts, and you've also got the fact that dogs and humans also make mistakes. So if you add those 5 things together, 1 week, for 60 seconds a year, which is the World Cup, and that there's several different ways to be very successful in agility. There's different methods, there's different training methods, there's different handling methods, and it's not to say there's a right or a wrong way, because it's proven there are some phenomenal dogs out there with average handlers, but there's also some phenomenal handlers with average dogs, and both get to a high level, and sometimes you get a fantastic dog and a fantastic handler, and that's when they're hard to beat.
Yeah, I think agility is the ultimate dog sport. And speaking of ultimate, I don't know if you guys like that lead in there.
That was very good.
Thanks. Ultimate agility. Tell us a little bit about ultimate agility and your venture now into the world of online agility instruction.
Well, I think we one of the problems that we have is we run several businesses, with UKA and UKI being our main businesses now. And obviously, both of us are involved in WAO, but I'm more heavily involved in WAO. That's myself and Monica. Video company as well, doing with the dog videos. We were just struggling to get to seminars, and obviously the world coming to us is a lot easier. So that was the initial thought, is that we could do seminars where people from wherever in the world can join in. And obviously with the increase in technology now, some of the learning techniques that we're using on the online courses are so much better than standing in the middle of a field. There's obviously a huge part at times to standing in the field and the one-to-one instruction and seeing someone in real time and working with them on the field. But, you can do so much more of the theoretical teaching with the online facilities, with your diagrams, your written text, your video analysis, all those different ways that people learn. We can provide all 3 straight away. Plus, the ability they could just ask us questions every day when we're working through on a specific topic. They can, get the lesson plan, go out, try it. If they just get a problem, they can come straight back online, put that question on the forum, and Laura and I answer it every day. So that they do get access to us as well. So it's been good for us, but it's also been good, I think, for a lot of people that we've got seminar waiting lists that we've never got anywhere near moving down the list. So they've got access to actual seminars which they wouldn't have had prior to the online course.
Right, and then you figure that even when we do have the opportunity to get to places for a seminar, we can teach 10 to 12 people at a time. Well, now we can open it up to as many people as want to sign up. So that's definitely a benefit
Well, for people in our audience who don't know, Greg and Laura through Ultimate Agility have had two different e-courses out already. One, Ultimate Handling, and the second one, Ultimate Foundation. And Sarah and I did both of these. We love them. They're fantastic. And for people who kind of missed the boat on the first time around, are you planning on re-offering these courses in the future? How's that going to work?
Yeah, we're actually on the 1st of September releasing a new course, Ultimate Course Analysis, which it's going to be 30 days long. Every day we analyse a course. All the courses are submitted by the participants. The first 30 people that signed up got to submit a course. So that's the current project that we're working on. But both the handling and the foundation, I'm sure we'll update and release again in the near future. Certainly the foundation one of the things we found with that was that where people were really lacking on understanding or where they really needed help was to work on the dog's reinforcement schedule. One of the plans I think we've got is to do a 4-week reinforcement course, which just focuses on getting the dog to want to work for you properly. So before you do anything else, you've got that desire to work for you, which is all about just creating reinforcement that you've got what the dog wants. And part of the foundation course, the original one, was a 4-week supplement course just on reinforcement. And that proved to be where most people had the problems, but also most of the great feedback was coming from that, little things that they can do in their dog's life just to make their training so much easier. Once they'd established reinforcement, they then flew through the actual foundation training much quicker and much easier with far more success. So I think we'll definitely be doing a reinforcement course over the winter as well to help people out on that.
Awesome. We'll definitely look forward to that. Tell us a little bit more about the course analysis. So you've got these 30 courses, 30 days, but I can imagine people being reluctant to want to sign up for a course like this, thinking, probably wondering, like, what are they really going to get out of it? Like, how is it going to make them a better competitor? How's it going to help them at the next show?
Well, so far I've worked through 10 courses, and I think one of the things it's going to hopefully help people do is make them realise that actually course analysis can be quite a simple thing. You're literally looking for what behaviour do I want my dog to do. So the first thing that we're going to take you through is how to identify those behaviours. Between 2 and 3, what do I want my dog to do? Do I want to turn left, turn right? Do I want it to decel? Do I want it to excel? So it's identifying specific behaviours as the first thing, and then giving you the different types of cues you could use, front cross, rear cross, and then why you might use one as opposed to the other. And also one of the important things I think you find is that, a lot of time when people walk a course, they spend so much time and they're so indecisive that by looking at just 30 courses is going to help them to make decisions quicker. Other things that I think is going to help them on is handling theory. Quite a few of the courses being sent in are definitely courses that some have been sent in by students that know our handling system quite well, and they've obviously come across courses that are really challenging to be consistent. So it's also helping to explain some of the theory, where you should put a threadle, where you shouldn't put a threadle. And even on simple courses, that those two things are quite often missed, which causes a lot of fallout. A couple of courses that I've analysed recently, they're set in a way where you actually have to layer because they've got pieces of equipment together. So it doesn't matter how fast you are, you're actually forced to layer because of the course design. And again, going through just basic foundation theory of why you can do that handling and why you can't. And obviously the other thing we try to do with some of the analysis is say where you're likely to have a problem. And if you have that problem, what's causing it, what part of your training is wrong, and what you can do to try and fix that. Is it a foundation skill you're lacking, or is it a jumping skill, or working that out so that we can go back to the basics. So I think really, there's not only all the work they can do on that specific course, but it's also going to identify a lot of their training weaknesses that they can then identify, go back, fix those. So even though it's the higher level of analysis, it's still going to really be looking at fundamental problems in their dog training and their handling that they can fix, and hopefully we can help them identify.
And I think it will also help people just in, with their real life skills as far as taking your drills that you work during the week, or, for example, when we go on seminars, we set up drills for them. And one of the things that people always say is, yes, I get the drills, but I don't know how to put that into real life practice. So just by getting these 30 courses and going through them, hopefully they're going to come across something similar at their local trial, and they'll understand the options and how to handle that. So again, it's just putting it into practice, which is one of the things that people ask us quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good thing about the analysis course is that the participants are submitting them, so they're all realistic courses from judges, and we've also got a really good spread. We're trying to make sure that we've got a nice spread of North America, Europe, Great Britain, Australia.
New Zealand.
So, yeah, New Zealand are hopefully sending one in.
Yeah.
And so that we've got, it's not a training seminar where you set up the most horrible courses. These are realistic courses coming from very, very well-known judges. You know, for North American judges that I've analysed in the first 10, we've got Scott Chamberlain, Dan Butcher, with two of the judges straight away that off the top of my head I could tell you about, which are both well-known US judges. From Europe, we've got Amir Lamanen course, who's one of the most famous judges in Europe, known for setting up the more difficult European courses. So straight away, we've got very popular judges, and they're real courses, which, you know, people are going to come across these judges. So again, it should help them in their competition.
Oh, we're definitely looking forward to it. Sarah and I have already signed up for the Ultimate Course Analysis, and if it's, you know, half as good as Ultimate Handling and Ultimate Foundation, you know, it's going to be a great course. And I believe you can find all of these at ultimateagility.com. And if you go to that page...
The Ultimate Analysis got its own sign-up page, so ultimatecourseanalysis.com. But you could go to Ultimate Agility and find your way there as well.
Awesome. So registration is still open. Course starts when?
Course starts the 1st of September. And it's a course every day. And then, so each morning, your course plan will go live. Your description of dog's behaviour, diagrams of the dog's behaviour, and then the handling options as we see it with diagrams. Each course has probably got about 20 to 25 diagrams to explain all the handling positions and the lines that the handler should be taking. And then obviously each day, you know, people can post questions on that course that Laura and I will be answering each night. So there should be a lot of exposure to...
Now, will people be able to sign up beyond past September 1st, or they have to get it in before September 1st?
No, I'm sure we'll keep registration open because with all the courses, although they last for a certain amount of time, they stay online for 6 months, and also there's an ebook at the end of it. So if people do come late, you know, obviously they're realising they're coming late, but all the information will still be there for that period of time, and the ebook is available at the end as well. So, I mean, beneficial to them to sign up before the 1st of September, but I'm sure for the first 2 weeks we'll keep registration open.
So, Greg, you used to have a PowerPoint presentation that you would give in the evening at your seminars. And it sounds like there's a lot of overlap between what was covered in that and what's covered in course analysis. But do you have any plans to offer that PowerPoint as some sort of DVD or its own course or thing?
Yeah, I think we were discussing a DVD when we started Ultimate, and it kind of got put to the back burner with starting Ultimate Agility. But it's definitely something that I think would be a good online seminar, maybe in chapters. The problem with the PowerPoint, or the real problem I had with it, is that when you do a 3-hour lecture, there's a huge amount of information. And as with any lecture, if it's 3 hours long, you know, it's difficult to absorb all that information. So what I think we might be doing with Ultimate is breaking it into chapters. So a chapter on the front cross theory, a chapter on rear cross theory, chapter on serpentines, chapter on treadles, you know, for example. And then also once we've done that is then combining it together and put it on a DVD. But that is a project that we are looking to do at some time in the near future.
Well, I vote yes for that. It's one of my favorite presentations.
It's been one of the things that I wanted to do for a long time. It's just one of those things that just keeps getting put. DVDs take so much time to produce, you know, really good quality DVD. It is quite a lot of work, and it's always been there to do, and it's just never quite happened. But it is a definite plan with Ultimate that we'll be doing that. I hope that will be in the next 12 months. In fact, it would be a good winter project.
Nice. Well, I'm excited. And that's it for today's podcast. We'd like to thank Greg and Laura Derrett so much for joining us today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Greg and Laura's new course, Ultimate Course Analysis, is on their site, ultimateagility.com, and also ultimatecourseanalysis.com. You can sign up now, and it starts on September 1st. We have links to these sites on our podcast page at baddogagility.com, where you can also find plenty of agility training, articles, and videos. We love your feedback, so be sure to leave us a comment on the website or on Facebook. And sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a post or podcast. Happy training!